Our top story today, President Trump has unveiled a new strategy for the U.S. war in Afghanistan that calls for an increase in troops but erases any timetables. The Afghan war, now in its 16th year, is the longest war in American history. The president's plan is one that, for the moment, seems to be unifying the Republican Party after a week of discord. CBS's Seth Lemon is in Washington with more.
Conditions on the ground, not arbitrary timetables, will guide our strategy from now on.
President Trump laid out a new course of action Monday night for the war in Afghanistan. The president said he will boost the number of American troops, but wouldn't specify how many. He also wouldn't say what conditions would signal a victory. The president insisted this is not a blank check, that Afghanistan will have to carry the heaviest load in securing its future.
We will not dictate to the Afghan people how to live or how to govern their own complex society. We are not nation building again. We are killing terrorists.
The president was widely applauded by fellow Republicans, even those who have come out against Mr. Trump's response to the violence in Charlottesville. Senator John McCain tweeted, "I commend POTUS's new strategy for Afghanistan. We must move past last admin's failed policy of postponing defeat."
I'm pleased with the decision. I'm actually pleased with the way he went about making this decision.
On the other side, Democratic House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi released a statement criticizing the president for, quote, declaring an open-ended commitment of American lives with no accountability to the American people. The Afghan ambassador to the U.S. praised the president's plan. The Taliban released a statement urging the U.S. to withdraw all troops, insisting it will fight with a strong spirit and full determination. Seth Lemon for CBS News, Washington.
President Trump said while his initial inclination was to pull out of Afghanistan, talks with aides changed his mind and helped him realize the power vacuum that might be created would be too easily filled by terrorist organizations. The president also called out Pakistan to do more to combat terrorists within its borders. Also making this morning's headlines today, the president plans to travel to Yuma, Arizona to push for congressional funding for a wall on the U.S.-Mexico border. President Trump will also hold a campaign rally in Phoenix, and police are bracing for protest. The state's two senators, John McCain and Jeff Flake, do not plan to attend. And 3 separate naval forces are coordinating their efforts to find 10 missing sailors after a U.S. naval ship crashed in the Pacific. The naval destroyer collided with an oil tanker early Monday near Singapore, tearing a hole in flooring compartments, including a crew's sleeping area. But this is the 4th major collision in the Pacific this year. It's prompted the Navy to order a full investigation of the 7th Fleet's performance and readiness. But for now, there's no explanation for the collision, and the Navy says there are no indications of sabotage. Now in news closer to home, a man in his mid-30s from the Laurel area was killed when he drove his motorcycle into the back of a semi-trailer. The Montana Highway Patrol responded to the crash on South Frontage Road near the East Laurel exit at 9:44 last night. Trooper Kirk Robbins says the semi was on South Frontage Road when the motorcycle collided with the back driver's side of the semi-trailer. He says speed was a factor for the deceased motorcyclist. The driver of the semi was not injured and did not appear to be under the influence of any intoxicants. Bond is set at $2 million for 2 suspects in a gruesome and disturbing double homicide case out of Missoula. These suspects, accused of placing 2 bodies in chemical-filled barrels, appeared in Missoula County Court on Monday. Court documents state 23-year-old Tiffany Pierce and 26-year-old Augustus Standing Rock stabbed the victims, a man and a woman. Then their bodies were placed in plastic tubs filled with chemicals. While serving a search warrant, Standing Rock was found with a bloody cloth around his hand. Investigators also found knives and an axe covered in blood and what appeared to be human tissue. The names of the victims have not been released. In other news, a former Laurel educator will not be working in a classroom for the next 3 years after admitting she sent partially nude photos to a student. It was back in September when Sarah Sheldon accepted a friend request from a teenage boy on Facebook and began talking online. Sheldon admitted in a phone conversation with a program manager for the Office of Public Instruction that the conversation was flirtatious. Sheldon eventually realized the 17-year-old boy had been a student of hers when he was about 12 years old. Sheldon told the state education official she was drinking one night when the boy requested photos of her. Sheldon sent the boy partially nude photos and a sexual video. The next day, Sheldon tried to contact the boy about the photos, but he wouldn't answer. Those photos were shared around the school in December, leading Sheldon to submit her resignation. Education officials say the video has not surfaced. And on the same day, the Laurel superintendent submitted the incident report to the OPI. The Laurel police chief said there was no criminal investigation. Meanwhile, Montana Congressman Greg Gianforte has been ordered to take a mugshot and be fingerprinted in connection with his assault on a reporter this past May. Gallatin County Judge Rick West ordered Gianforte to go through the formal booking process no later than September 15th. On the night of the assault against Guardian reporter Ben Jacobs, Gianforte was not arrested but was issued a citation, so his mugshot and fingerprints were never taken. Earlier, Gianforte's attorney asked the judge to let him skip the booking process, but Judge West said no. Gianforte was also sentenced to 40 hours of community service, 20 hours of anger management, and was fined almost $400. In Helena, Veterans Secretary David Shulkin met with vets and VA medical personnel on Monday to get a better feel for Montana's problems with veterans' health care. Shulkin said the VA health system is working to overcome its problems, but they won't be fixed overnight. MTN's Mike Dennison reports.
Secretary Shulkin was in Helena Monday morning, where he and Montana's 2 U.S. senators hosted a public listening session with veterans. Shulkin and Senators Steve Daines and John Tester said improving VA health care is one area where Washington actually seems to be working.
There hasn't been a lot of legislation passed in Washington, D.C., but if you look at the record on veteran legislation, it's quite positive.
Those bills include ones giving the VA more power to get rid of bad employees and a Whistleblower Protection Act. Shulkin also noted that a new VA health clinic will be built in Missoula. But veterans still gave Shulkin and the senators an earful about problems, including long waits and hassles over the choice system, which is supposed to alleviate waits with treatment by private physicians. Vietnam veteran Everett King of Valier said choice started out fine, but that the follow-through has been disappointing.
But instead of waiting 1 month through all the paperwork and stuff, I ended up waiting 3 months. You just flat get ignored sometimes here in Helena. Just flat get ignored. And I don't think that's right.
Shulkin said afterward he hopes a bill to improve the choice program can pass this fall. He also said rule changes are underway to help direct more VA funds to rural areas, such as money for a Southwest Montana Veterans Nursing Home.
If we don't change the rules to make sure that being in a rural area increases the likelihood of funding, we're not going to get to be able to help residents of Montana.
Yet Shulkin urged patience and said veterans who've been turned away or had problems should try coming back to the system and try it again.
A lot of the problems that resulted in the crises that we've seen in the VA did not happen overnight. They happened over decades, and it's going to take us still additional time to get this system to where we believe it needs to be. It is going to take us a period of several years to get this system to be one that we're all satisfied with.
Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Senators Tester and Daines said 5 bills aimed at improving VA health care have passed Congress and were signed into law by the president.